Casey Stern, you see him on TBS. He's the studio host of their MLB postseason coverage. Mets, Dodgers
kind of like a zoo warden more than a studio host. he kind of.
Do you feel that way, Casey? Would you agree with that?
I have no comment. No, it's you know what it's. I just feel like sometimes I feel like we're at the circus and I'm either like ringmaster half the time, lion tamer the other half. It's fun.
Hey, last night, Rangers Blue Jays. Out of everything that happened in that seventh inning, the one thing that's sticking out to you the most today is what?
Elvis Andrus. Not even close. Not even close. Because that play will be discussed a lot and should be. I mean, whether or not Dale Scott had blown the play dead, whether or not that's a scenario where it should be a live ball based on the rule it is, all that sort of stuff. The Toronto fans definitely stand out to me, and I think that's a little bit disgraceful to be throwing cans. You get, a woman with her baby who gets hit in the head. All of that is scary. The bat flip, to me, people like to talk about because they got nothing better to do. But for me, it's the one thing that's actually baseball related. The one thing that's under the control of a baseball player, and that's not people throwing stuff or umpires making bad calls or bat flips. That's just catch the ball. You get a run like that, and you get a chance to put a team away. You've got an entire city on the ropes, and you make 3 errors, and Elvis Andrus had a hand in pretty much everything that went bad that inning. To me, more than anything else, guys, I think about the fact that that defense on those 3 plays is what cost the Rangers that game. And no umpire had anything to do with the outcome, not even Joey Bats. It really came down to me, those 3 errors in the 7th inning.
I'm sorry. I've been crying in the corner. I'm back now. Thanks for making me relive that, Casey. I appreciate it. Out of everything that happened, he's like, let's talk about how the Rangers screwed up.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fair point.
Because the bat flip never happens if Andrews plays defense. Joey Bats doesn't get up.
That is correct.
Now,
and you know what? I think it's better for the league. I was saying this last night. It's better for the league, clearly, what played out and transpired, because now they don't have to deal with anybody talking about the Jays losing the game because of that play. But when it all comes down to it, regardless of whether or not it's sexier to talk about, throwing cans or bat flips or all this other stuff, and there was plenty to dig into in that game, from a baseball standpoint of you're in an elimination game. That's the first time in MLB history we've seen 3 errors in any inning in an elimination game in the history of the postseason. And it all came literally right after a play that should have sent you on to the next round. I mean, that's Elvis not going to get much sleep, boys. There's not enough Ambien that he can go ahead and buy somewhere on some back channel pharmaceutical website to go ahead and get him to sleep in the next couple of weeks.
Agreed.
I think I already know your opinion on this, but how do you feel the outrage over Joey Bats' bat flip? Justified or completely not?
I don't care. I mean, you know what? I think baseball has gotten. First of all, was yesterday's a little bit overboard? Yeah, okay, probably. But at the end of the day, baseball is the only sport that we deal with where, we're not in church, people. This isn't a library. This is a sport. These are athletes that are, playing for millions of dollars. I get that, but there's 50,000 people in the crowd. They got a whole season where they get 18 total days off on the line, and the guy hits a home run after all that garbage that happened the inning before. What do you want him to do? Like, nicely place the bat down, apologize to the catcher as he rounds first, apologize and shake the hand and pat the back of the
curtsy.
first. I mean, we've gotten crazy. Enough already. Who the hell cares? That's my opinion on it.
Casey Stern, he has no opinions whatsoever. The TBS studio host. It's a great show, and we're going to watch it tonight before and after Mets Dodgers. How do the Mets get to Greinke tonight?
Well, I think the one thing that they have to do is they've got to try and, I think, attack early. The one thing with Greinke is he's not a guy who is going to nitpick and be behind on many counts or go 3-1. So I think they, unfortunately have to have the approach where they got to strike early. If you get an early count and you get a fastball, I think you got to go on it. I'm taking breaking balls early, and if he throws a strike on a breaker, I'll go 0-1. But for me, especially with the Mets and the type of hitters they have, you look at d'Arnaud and Cespedes, a lot of these guys are really fastball hitters. I'm going ahead and I'm making sure that I look dead red early, and if he throws down the middle to try and get ahead, I'm hacking. And I know that that's not prototypical with the idea of let's get the pitch count up and get to the Dodgers' pen. That sounds like a great idea until all of a sudden you're down 2-0 in the sixth inning. I don't want to be there. If he throws a mistake trying to get ahead of me early, I'm taking a hack and seeing if I can get a run and take it out of the park and give DeGrom a lead. So I think the biggest key for the Mets, look fastball early in counts and hack. Don't sit there going 0-2 with Greinke because he'll kill you all day. That's when he throws that stuff off the plate and you can't spit on it in the dirt.
All right, and this is one of those rare situations where I can actually ask the question, who has the pitching advantage in this game, Greinke or DeGrom?
You know, I don't necessarily know if there is one. However, two things I would look at I would give to Greinke. One, he's at home, and I know home field advantage is not the biggest thing in the world. It's not. It's an advantage for Greinke. He does pitch better at home. He had as good a home ERA, I think, outside of Keuchel as anybody in baseball. So I do think there's an advantage there. Do I think experience could play a part? It can, in terms of, pitching multiple times in a short series and all the things Greinke's done before that DeGrom has not. But I think the advantage to me is going to go to the team that gets the lead first. It's a very simplistic thing to say. It's like saying throw strike one when you say what's important in a game 5. Well, get the lead. But I think with these two teams, when you look at the hitting on both sides, you're not seeing many rallies from the Dodgers at all. And outside of a couple of big innings in one game, the Mets haven't had that either. If I can get a bloop and a blast and be up 2-0 for DeGrom or Greinke and allow them to sit there and say, hey, look, a solo home run can't hurt me, where they're in attack mode the entire game, I think that 2 runs could be everything. So I think if one of these two teams jumps on early, that could be the team that coasts the rest of the way with these two starters on the mound.
Casey Stern, TBS studio host. He does all the MLB games for the National League with TBS this year. You'll see him tonight on television with Armen and Levack on 104.5 The Team.
Casey, with this kind of talent on the mound, I've heard some air quote experts say a game like this is going to most likely come down to which manager doesn't make a move they should have or makes the wrong move. You've got your choice between Mattingly and Collins. Who's going to manage a better game?
It's a very good question because TC has not been in this spot before. I don't like either bullpen leading up to the closer. I think Jansen and Familiar are both trusted. I would hedge to say, I don't know if I would say better for Terry Collins, but I'd be more worried about Don Mattingly. There's much more pressure on Don Mattingly. Terry Collins is keeping his job, a job at the beginning of the year people didn't think he would keep. They won a division. Everybody knows about the Mets pitching for the future. You know what? They lose today. It's like the Astros yesterday, guys. Everybody's patting them on the back for a great season. The Dodgers lose today. You got a $300 million payroll, and Mattingly could be fired. I don't care what anybody says because of what Stan Kasten and Magic Johnson and that group expect from this team. So I would be more worried about Don being in a spot where he gets crossed up in his own head. Do I stay with him too long or pull him? Let's not forget Kershaw against Matt Carpenter last year. I'm not saying that's necessarily a vote for Terry Collins, but maybe more so against Don Mattingly.
Casey, the Cubbies are having a magical season. Which team has a better shot against Chicago, Mets or Dodgers?
Absolutely the Mets. If the Cubs play the Dodgers, I will pick now the Cubs in 5 games. Wow. The Cubs will beat the Dodgers and get to the World Series. The Dodgers aren't good enough to beat Chicago. Now, I'm not saying that I would pick the Mets necessarily to do it either because I picked Jays Cubs in the World Series before the postseason, and I'm sticking with that. But I think the Mets have a much better chance, and it's one simple reason, depth of starting pitching. If you look at the Cubs, what's their weakness? Jason Hamill, Kyle Hendricks, these guys are hittable. They had Hamill out, Madden did in the 3rd inning, right? So what do you have with the Dodgers? That's their weakness. So you got Brett Anderson, you got Alex Wood. You're not going to go short rest probably in a 7-game series. So all of a sudden it's evened out, and the hitting is much, much better for Chicago. The momentum, everything they do, the speed, I like all of that. When you look at the Mets guys, they have an advantage over Chicago. Matt Harvey and Steven Matz are clearly way better than what Chicago would put out their games 3 and 4. So absolutely clear to me, the Mets have a much better chance, I think, to beat the Cubs than the Dodgers.
Starting at 7:30 tonight on TBS, Casey Stern and his crew. You'll see him at Casey Stern on Twitter. And, dude, seriously, you, Pedro, Sheffield, Dusty Baker, how much fun do you guys just have on that set, man?
It's crazy, man. There are times where I sit there and I say, I don't know if this is professional, but I'm enjoying it. I mean, we're at a point where it's just, We are doing what we're doing on set behind the scenes for the entirety of the time that we're enjoying the games. We bust each other's chops. The irony is, and I mean this sincerely, working with You got a Hall of Famer in Pedro, a borderline Hall of Famer with those kind of numbers in Chef, Dusty, who is a great player and a winning manager, and none of these guys have any egos whatsoever. Everybody's ripping into each other and having fun, and it's as good of a set as I've ever been a part of.
Casey Stern, watch it tonight, starting at 7:30 on TBS. Before and after Mets, Dodgers, Game 5, first pitch, 8:07. Casey, have some fun tonight, man. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much today.
All right, boys, we'll do. Sorry about your Rangers.
Oh, thanks, man.